you actually break down by the different ultra-processed foods, the things that are having a negative effect are these sugar-sweetened beverages, red and processed meats.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Conversations on Compassion. I'm your host Jade.
I'm Aaron.
And today we're delighted to be joined by GP, bodybuilder and animal advocate Minil Patel. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
So we'd love to start by talking about your personal journey to veganism. Can you tell us how you first went vegan?
Yeah, so obviously I wasn't always vegan. I've only been vegan for coming up to almost 9 years in July. But yeah, growing up, I grew up in like a vegetarian household, even though I wasn't vegetarian myself. Like, funny enough, all the women in my household were vegetarian, but the men all ate meat. So you can kind of see where this is going there. So from kind of young, it was put in my mind that men ate meat. And the reason being, the women in my household were quite religious. So I come from a Hindu household. I'm not religious myself, but growing up, you know, I believed in God, and I grew up in a vegetarian household. And, you know, because my mum, my grandmother, my aunts, they were all vegetarian, it's kind of most of the food I ate was vegetarian. But because my dad and my uncle, who were the men and didn't eat, and they ate meat, I also ate things like chicken and things like that. So growing up, I was getting a bit of everything. A lot of dairy as well. So Hindus and vegetarian Hindus as well eat a lot of dairy. And then when I got to sort of, I would say, somewhere in secondary school, that's when I started kind of eating way more meat, because I went to an all-boys school, was in the rugby team. You know, people started focusing on building muscle, getting in the gym and things. So, you know, it was the kind of, the implication at that time was that you have to eat meat to get protein. So I was eating a lot more meat. Even my vegetarian friends who weren't eating meat before had started eating meat, just because that's how they believed that you could build muscle and get stronger. And then when I went to medical school, my training actually ramped up a lot more. So I really got into lifting. I was going regularly. I was really focusing on building muscle. I was eating a lot more meat. And when I say a lot more meat, I was eating what I'd call close to like a carnivore style diet or a paleo diet. I was probably the furthest you can imagine from being vegan. Like, if you were to go back and meet me at that time, you would say, this is the last guy that's ever going to go vegan. There's no way. My freezer was full of like just all sorts of different animals. Like, I was ordering stuff online, like getting it flown in from abroad. Oh wow. I can list the animals I used to eat, and you'd be shocked. It was, you know, like kangaroo, camel, even horse meat. I was eating all of this stuff. Yeah. So I was the furthest you could imagine from being vegan. But weirdly, at the time, I still said, I love animals. I was an animal lover. Like, I was obsessed with them. Like, if I wasn't a doctor, I would have been a vet. You know, if I went to someone's house and they had a pet dog or a pet cat, I'd be the first one in there on the floor playing with them. Literally, I was obsessed with animals. But I just ate them. And if anyone asked me, you know, how can you eat animals? Why do you say you love them? I would just be like, oh, well, I'm an animal as well. I give all those, you know, it's the same excuses that you hear people give, like, we're animals, it's natural, food chain, all of that stuff. In fact, I would go around talking to my vegetarian friends and family members about why they should be eating meat as well. That's that's how firmly I held that belief that we needed meat to be healthy. So as I said, the last person you'd ever imagine to go vegan. So how did I get to there? There was like a series of events I can describe. So sometime in around, I think it was 2020, no, when was it? I think it was before 2020, it was 2015, 2016 actually. My friends were going to go greyhound racing. Okay. And I said, no, I don't want to come greyhound racing, guys, you guys go ahead. And they were like, oh, why? And I was like, well, I'm just against the whole idea of that, it's not ethical. And then one of their girlfriends was like, don't you eat meat? And I was like, you got a point, yeah, I do eat meat, but this is different. She's like, why is it different? You're worried about the way these dogs are treated, but you eat animals, what's the difference? I was like, okay, fine, you got me, I'm a hypocrite. That's the first time I've had to concede that point. But still didn't go vegan yet. I was just like, fine, I'm a bit of a hypocrite, I'll carry on. And then I met a vegan woman at the time, and we started dating, and then we'd always get into debates about sort of veganism and animal rights, and I found myself just agreeing with everything she was saying. Like, I had no leg to stand on. I was literally just like, yeah, you're right, and then all this. But the only thing I kept falling back on was like, you know, we're naturally omnivores and all that stuff. I kept saying that. And then, you know, she showed me proof that actually humans can be vegan as well and things. I was like, all right, fine, but, you know, you need supplements. She was like, well, you already take supplements. You have protein shakes and you supplement vitamins. What's the difference? And I was like, okay, fine. You got me there. And then I was like, well, I need meat for protein because I bodybuild. I work out. I need it. So she showed me a Facebook group full of like vegan bodybuilders and athletes. There was like 2,000 people in this group, and I was like, huh. Okay, so if these people can do it, what excuse do I really have? Still wasn't ready to go vegan. And then in, I think it was May 2017, she took me to an animal sanctuary.
Oh.
That was a kicker. I went to an animal sanctuary. I was surrounded by all these like really happy animals. I was helping making their bed and feeding them. And they've been rescued from people like me, like people that wanted to eat them, right? And I went home and I was like, damn, am I going to have to go vegan? Like, and I still wasn't ready. And then in July 7th, 2017, she sent me a video, The Greatest Speech You'll Ever Hear by Gary Yourofsky.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone's seen it. And, you know, that speech, I watched it and overnight I was like, I'm done. That's it. I'm going to be vegan now. And yeah, I haven't looked back since. It's been, almost 9 years. It'll be 9 years this July. And my only regret is that I didn't do it sooner.
Oh, I
So
love
I think
that.
everyone says that, don't they?
Yeah, I don't. You never
Really-
hear anyone say that they regret it. It's just
Really cliche, isn't it? But it's true, because once you realize all the horrible things that happen to animals, you just think, damn, like I contributed to that, like for so many years of my life.
Yeah.
Me more so than anyone, the amount of meat I was eating. So
Yeah.
So I always say if I can do it, then anyone can.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. We often say this, but we've both been veggie most of our lives and then vegan just through like a love of animals. So it's always interesting to hear people that were on like the other end of the spectrum that you kind of think, oh, there'll be no hope for them to go vegan, but you're an example that you absolutely can.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, amazing.
How did you find bodybuilding on a vegan diet? Did you notice any differences compared to when you ate meat?
Yeah, I mean, I often get asked that question because people expect me to say, yeah, my performance went up loads and stuff, or, you know, I think I had a real fear of going vegan whilst I was training. I was really thinking, yeah, if I go vegan, I'm gonna probably, my muscles are all gonna waste away. I'm gonna get weaker. It's gonna be horrible for me, basically. That's what I thought was gonna happen, and that was that fear that almost held me back. But I spoke to a friend of mine who was a nutritionist, and he was vegan, and he said to me, even if there's like a percentage difference and stuff, is it going to matter compared to the amount of suffering that the animals go through? That really put things in perspective for me. So I was ready to, like, you know, go in all in, and if it caused any problems, I was like, fine, I'll suffer her out. But to my surprise, I kept getting stronger. Kept you know, setting new PRs in the gym. I actually got in the best shape of my life on a vegan diet while I was bodybuilding as well. So that proved to me like anything's possible. Like before I went vegan, I never thought I'd be featured in Men's Health online magazine. But actually, after I went vegan and after I got into really good shape, there was a little article done about my journey on Men's Health magazine online, which I just, you know, you can ask any bloke, they'd love to be in Men's Health magazine online, right? Or even Men's Health magazine, obviously. And then I even got featured in a documentary, I Could Never Go Vegan. I've got a very small kind of role in it speaking, but the cameo I've got in it, obviously I'm training in that, it's showing like a montage of me training. Never thought that would be possible before I went vegan, let alone on a vegan diet. So, you know, I say there's not a huge difference at all. I think provided you're training consistently and you know what you're doing, you're progressively overloading, you're getting stronger in the gym, and you're fueling your workouts well, there is just no difference. Personally, I feel like I started eating more carbohydrates in my diet as well. So I felt like I was more energized, my muscles felt more full. It was just easier to eat more carbs on a vegan diet. Whereas before I was eating very meat heavy diet, and that was probably making me feel quite full, and there was no space really for the other foods. And actually, you know, I started eating a lot more fruits and vegetables as well, and I just felt better. My digestion was better. You know, there was times where, you know, when I was eating meat, sometimes you're always running the risk of getting food poisoning. Like that's how I felt anyway. Like if you undercook animal flesh, you could easily get food poisoning, and that happened a few times. And that puts you out of training for like days or weeks at a time sometimes. I just never had that problem as a vegan ever. So yeah, I think personally it's not been detrimental at all. And if it's been any marginal improvements, it's because of the added carbohydrates.
That's really interesting. I think a lot of people are really concerned about getting enough protein on a vegan diet. Do you think that's a valid concern? And what are your kind of typical protein sources?
Yeah, so I mean, I think if we had like a pound for every time we've been asked that question about protein, we'd all be millionaires, right? So is there a concern? I'd say there's two kind of schools of thought. Like some people say that as long as you're eating enough calories on a vegan diet, you'll get enough protein. There's no problem there. There's some truth to that. So like what we look at like cohort studies in nutrition. We look at kind of what are people eating, and when we compare people that are eating different diets and you look at how much protein each different group is eating, vegans tend to eat slightly less protein than omnivores, obviously, because omnivores are eating eggs, meat, fish, dairy, which are really concentrated in protein. So vegans tend to get a bit less, but are they meeting how much they need? And on average, vegans are getting at the RDA or above. So that's reassuring. However, there are studies where a significant amount, like between 10 or 20% or even up to 30% of vegans are probably falling short of the RDA. So that can be a concern, especially if you're not cognizant of what high protein foods to eat as a vegan. So, you know, if you're just eating, if you're just eating kind of rice, chips, vegan junk food that might not be high in protein and things like that, because a vegan diet doesn't tell you what's actually in the diet, it just tells you that there's no animal products. So you actually have to look at how you plan that diet. I think all diets need to be planned well to meet requirements. It's not just something that's unique to vegan diets. Omnivores can probably just get away with not planning the protein side of things because meat is very concentrated in protein, like I said, right? So the high protein vegan foods that we should be looking at are things like tofu, tempeh, textured vegetable protein, which is made of kind of defatted soya flour. So you just take soybeans, you process it down, make this defat soy flour, and then you can manipulate it into being either like soy mince or soy chunks and stuff, and then you rehydrate it, and you can use it in so many recipes. It's really good. Seitan, which is made of like vital
wheat
gluten. Yeah, I can never do that. Vital wheat gluten. Yeah, exactly. So again, it's a really high source of protein, good quality protein as well. Much of the protein that you get from plant-based sources either comes from legumes or grains or whole grains. So legumes are all your beans, so like borlotti beans, butter beans, kidney beans, black beans, black-eyed beans. I eat so many beans, and these are all great sources of protein. And soybeans is obviously included in that as well. And then your whole grains will be like your quinoa, your buckwheat, your brown rice. All of this stuff has protein as well. And then soy milk as well is a good source of protein, or soy yogurts as well. And if you feel like you need it for convenience and or taste, then protein powders are fine as well. Like people will put protein powders down and say that they're processed, all that stuff. I'm sure we'll come to talk about that a bit later, but I think they're a really convenient source of easy protein. And people take whey protein shakes all the time, but if you mention a vegan protein shake, that's like getting all bent out of shape. But yeah, I have one every morning. I just put a scoop of protein on my morning oats just to bump up that protein intake. So for me, I probably get more than I need. And I think as long as you're, as I said, cognizant of these high protein vegan foods, it's easy to get enough.
Yeah, that's good to know. I think that was what I did to start with. I was like a massive junk food vegan. I just was not eating. Actually, when I first went vegan, there wasn't as much junk food, so I was eating really healthy. And then the junk food came out. And we got a bit obsessed. But I think we're now finding more of a balance of bit of both.
So you mentioned soya, and there's a lot of misconceptions about soya. What are your views on it?
Soy is like one of the most maligned foods online, especially like in the circles of people that love peddling misinformation about nutrition and food. Personally, I think soy is, I don't really like the word superfood, but if you were going to class something as a superfood, soy is up there. And soy or soya comes from the soybeans, right? And they're quite a unique sort of bean. Like I've heard them referred to as like a magic bean in a way. So they're a bean or a legume like other beans, but they're sort of different in that they have a higher percentage of protein, like per 100 grams of that bean, compared to other beans. So more protein in them. They're also known as a complete protein. So again, the word complete protein gets thrown around a lot. All that word means really, or phrase means, is that it's got a good spread of all the essential amino acids. Now, I just want to put on the record that all plant foods contain all essential amino acids. And probably should explain what amino acids are. So amino acids make up protein, right? They're the building blocks. So if you've got a long chain, your amino acids are these single kind of bits that make up a long chain, and then that chain is a protein. And essential amino acids you have to get from your diet. Your body can't make them, and there's 9 essential amino acids. So if something's called a complete protein, it has all 9 essential amino acids in a good amount. But all plant foods do contain 9 essential amino acids, but in varying amounts. Okay. But soy, compared to other beans, has all 9, and it has a higher amount of the amino acid methionine, whereas beans tend to have lower amounts of methionine. So soy uniquely just is considered complete because of that reason. The other thing that makes it quite unique is that it has a higher amount of fat than other beans. Most beans are very low or negligible in fat, whereas soybeans have a higher amount of polyunsaturated fats, which are the healthy fats. They're good for you. And the last, well, not the last thing, but one of the most unique things is that soy contains something called isoflavones, or phytoestrogens. So you may have heard of that term. Soy contains that, and that property of soy is probably the reason for all the negative commotion you see online about soy. You may have heard that if you consume soy or these soy phytoestrogens, especially like amongst fragile men online. They're gonna suddenly become women overnight. They're going to
grow
grow
boobs.
they're going to grow breasts. They're going to become effeminate. Their personalities are going to suddenly change and all this stuff. It's all nonsense. Their fertility is going to go down. They're going to get erection problems. All of that's complete BS. There's no evidence for this at all. The only sort of evidence that people look at when they say this is going to happen is that there was one case report of a man who was consuming, I think it was like 3 gallons or more of something of soy milk, right? So he was getting about 350 milligrams worth of these soy isoflavones, which, if you look at Japanese populations, they consume a lot of soy isoflavones, and they probably consume as much as about 30 milligrams a day. And that's quite a lot, right?
Wow.
People in Western countries don't consume anywhere near that. They consume maybe like 2 to 3 milligrams at max. So even the high amount of soy isoflavones that they're consuming, we don't see any problems. But this one guy was consuming so many that he had some issues. And even in that one case report, you can't say it was because of the soy isoflavones that he had issues.
Yeah.
But because of that case report, people kind of ran with it and said, yeah, these soy isoflavones are really bad. And I should probably explain what soy isoflavones are as well, and phytoestrogens, right? Because you hear that word thrown around, you think, oh my God, estrogen, it's like the hormone estrogen. So obviously men and women make the hormone estrogen. It's really important. It's got loads of functions in the body. Phytoestrogen just means it's a phyto plant, and the estrogen label is put on there because the molecule looks similar to mammalian estrogen, right?
Okay.
But it doesn't mean that it's going to have the exact same effects in the body. It just means that it can bind to receptors in the body that estrogen can bind to. But what it does at those receptors is going to be different depending on which receptor it binds to and what action it has at that receptor. So it's really complicated, really, right? And even soy researchers are still getting into the nitty-gritty of exactly what happens on the receptor, then what are the downstream effects in the cell and all of that. What we care about as kind of clinicians and people who study nutrition and care about kind of the outcomes on our health, right, is what actually happens when you consume soy and soy isoflavones on health outcomes, right? And luckily we've got like loads of studies done on soy and soy isoflavones because we've known about this stuff for years. So actually, firstly, is it causing any negative effect in men? So there was a meta-analysis, which is like a big study that looked at all these other studies of 41 studies that looked at the effect of soy isoflavone in men, and it found no effect on total testosterone, free testosterone, estrogen or estradiol. It had no effect on these hormones in men at all. So that's great. That's positive. Then you look at, okay, what is it doing to women? Is it kind of having the effect that estrogen would have on women and their women's organs?
Yeah.
So it looked at kind of female FSH, so follicle stimulating hormone. It looked at free estrogen. It looked at their something called vaginal maturity index, which is like a measure of like the different changes you see in the female vagina, essentially, that can be affected by estrogen, and also endometrial thickness, because all of these things are affected by estrogen in the body. Again, found no effect on soy and soy isoflavone intake on these outcomes at all.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so we know that it's not acting exactly like estrogen. Great. So what is it doing to our health? So we've had, again, these have been going on for ages. Another meta-analysis was one of 23 studies, I think, which found that soy and soy isoflavone intake was actually associated with a reduced risk of dying from ischemic heart disease and a reduced risk of dying from gastric, colorectal, and lung cancer. Weird. Why? We don't know, but it's having these effects. Then another study was, again, another meta-analysis was done, which looked at the effect of soy isoflavones, soy protein on LDL cholesterol. So we know LDL cholesterol is what can increase the risk of atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, which is the biggest killer of man. We found that even consuming as much as 25 grams a day of these of soy protein can reduce your LDL cholesterol by about 4%.
Wow.
Yeah. So again, another positive effect.
Yeah.
Another group of studies that were done. I could just keep reading. So it's just such an interesting food, right?
Yeah.
Another study was done a few studies in the USA and in Asian countries as well, where they're looking at soy intake and soy isoflavone intake on the risk of type 2 diabetes. It reduces the risk of type 2 diabetes. Don't know why, but it does that. Then we looked at kind of the effect on bone as well. So in postmenopausal women who have the higher risk of osteoporosis, does soy and soy isoflavone intake improve bone health? Looks like it does. So we're seeing all these positive signals for the consumption of soy.
Yeah.
It's not causing the things that people think it's going to do. So it's a win-win.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people were afraid as well that it's going to worsen breast cancer. That was another fear that people had because there was some studies done in mouse models where these mice who were prone to growing breast tumors, basically, were given soy isoflavones, really concentrated amount, and it worsened outcomes in these mice. I think these were studies done in the 90s, and people got really scared about that. But what happens in humans? We have to find out, right? Because we're not mice.
Yeah.
So in humans, interestingly, soy and soy isoflavone intake reduces the risk of breast cancer incidence and actually improves breast cancer outcomes in survivors of breast cancer.
Oh, wow.
Again, we don't know why this is. It's having, obviously, these isoflavones are probably having like this effect at the receptors, but to me, it all looks positive. So there's no reason why you shouldn't consume soy unless you've got like an allergy to it, obviously. If you've got an allergy to soy, then okay, fine, don't eat it. There's loads of other foods to eat. But if you can eat soy, then hey, it needs to be part of your everyday diet, in my opinion.
Being a soy boy is a good thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Soy was a very good thing. Exactly that.
It's really interesting what you said about the testing, because we've had Dr. Carol Treasure on, who she's funded or she conducts research into replacements for animal tests, and Animal Aid has funded one of those. And it's just like you just said, like so simply, and it is common sense, but I fear it's not, that we're not mice. So just testing on animals is such a bizarre way to indicate how humans will react to a drug or a food. Like we have completely different makeups and biology.
Yeah, definitely. I think we need to find as quickly as we can, find replacements for animal testing.
Yeah.
Like, it seems just so outdated, and there could be so many things that we could potentially help, like potentially it could help humans, but then because they fail at the animal testing level, you kind of just go, okay, fine, we can't use it in humans. There's so many things that could be like that. So
Yeah, cool. So I've heard just anecdotally that there's not much training around nutrition in medical school, and I know you've since gone on to do a qualification in plant-based nutrition. Could you tell us a bit about your experience? Is that true that there's not much training in medical school?
yeah, I feel like, so I went to medical school, telling my age now, I'm not even that old, but I think it was 2010 to 2016, I want to say, I went to medical school. So, wow, I finished med school 10 years ago, which makes me sound really old, but I'm not. Nothing wrong with getting old, but anyway. So yeah, when I was in medical school, like, I remember, I mean, there was studying going on. It wasn't just partying and stuff, obviously. But there's so much content. Like, you're learning so much during the 5 years that you're in there, or 6 years, depending where you go. Sometimes even 4 years. But there's just so much being taught. And really, the focus is on, the first couple of years is on like theory about like how cells work, how all the parts of the body work, physiology, all that. And then it's a focus on like literally what goes wrong. So disease processes, and it's a focus on then how do we treat those disease processes. A lot less focus is done on prevention, and nutrition would fall under that bracket in prevention. Or even in treatment of disease, a lot of focus is put on what medications are going to help. A lot less focus is put on kind of what foods will help. Even exercise, like there's hardly any teaching on exercise. Like if I think back, I could probably remember maybe 3 or 4 lectures that we had that touched on nutrition, and that was only because it had a relevance to cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and obesity, and I think that was it. Whereas nutrition can help with so many different things. So maybe we had like 10 hours, and I think there was a recent study done that was published in the BMJ, which surveyed different universities, and they found on average, I think it's like maybe 20 hours that medical students get in their 5 years that's done on nutrition.
Wow.
But there are sort of groups trying to change that. So there's something called there's a group called NutriTank, which are trying to change how nutrition is taught in medical school. There's a whole culinary medicine movement as well, which are trying to get modules on culinary medicine, so how preparation of food and stuff can help with prevention as well. So there's a whole movement out there trying to get it in. But I will stress that even if doctors are taught nutrition, I don't think it's necessarily the doctor's place to take a full nutrition history and provide nutrition prescriptions and advice to patients, because it just takes so much time to do that, knowledge to do that properly, and then the following up of patients. I think that we have people that do that. They're dietitians. Yeah. So clinical dietitians are trained to do this. The problem is in this country, there's not much training. There's not enough dietitians. There's not enough funding for them. And because doctors can't refer patients that would benefit from dietitian reviews, we're kind of stuck. Like, I've got so many patients that want to know what to eat to help them. Like, this country is like drowning in a chronic disease epidemic of obesity, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, high cholesterol, all that. All of them, like majority of these people do tell me, or ask me, what shall I eat? And obviously, like you said, like I'm interested in nutrition. So I've gone on and my interest only came after I went vegan, really.
Oh, okay.
So before that, I was interested in I was eating a lot of meat, wasn't I? So I can't be interested in nutrition. I was just interested in like, what can I do to get as big as possible? But when I went vegan, it was like, okay, there's something in here about plant-based nutrition and how useful it is. And I came across an organization called Plant-Based Health Professionals UK.
Oh yeah.
And through them and joining them and kind of connecting with them, I found this plant-based nutrition course, which is, it's not necessarily a qualification, but it's a course that you can do at Winchester University. But I used that course to then help myself get a qualification in lifestyle medicine. So that's the qualification I've got. But plant-based nutrition is a big part of that, because it's one of the pillars of it. And my experience with it was really good, because you learn about, okay, different foods, how they affect the body, and then all these different diseases that food plays a huge role in. Okay. And then once you learn all of that, now when I'm in my practice as a GP, I can tell patients, okay, because a lot of patients don't want to go on medication. Yeah. All right. So you basically have to explain to them, okay, fine, you don't want to go on medication. I hear you, because medication's going to have side effects. People are just afraid of them, all sorts of things. So you say, okay, these are the foods that you should be eating more of and can help you. And people, oh, okay, really? No one's ever told me that before. You'd be surprised the amount of patients I've seen who've never had any discussion about nutrition with the GP, because GPs are not trained in talking about that. They're not confident in talking about that. But that is what patients want to know. And it's easy to give leaflets and stuff, but I think people want to hear it from doctors as well. Yeah, so I think it's improving that there's now an awareness, and nutrition is being taught in medical schools a little bit. But like I said, I think we're not here to replace dietitians. So I think we need a bit of both, where doctors are taught about it so they realize the importance of it and can talk about it with patients with a bit of confidence. But then also we need to fund the dietitians as well, so GPs can refer when appropriate to them as well.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was possible, to be referred from your GP to a dietitian.
Yeah, for certain conditions, so not all conditions. Like, it depends what area in the country you're in as well. Yeah. Like some dietitians will see people for like IBS. Some people will deal with patients that have like quite bad obesity and need help with that as well. Yeah. But they won't see patients that have like high cholesterol, because it's just not enough funding for that. So really it's down to the GP having a bit of a brief chat, or even sometimes pharmacists having a brief chat about it, and then sending them online resources for patients to just kind of do their own reading.
In your experience, how important is the role of food and exercise in the prevention of chronic disease?
Yeah, so I mean, we just touched on that with nutrition. I think it's really important. When you look at, so there was a report called The Global Burden of Disease, which looked at kind of what is causing all the chronic disease, other diseases as well, but it looked at chronic disease as well. And around 80% of all chronic diseases can be put down to lifestyle factors. And the top four, 80% of all chronic disease. So this is including things like heart disease, COPD, cancers, strokes as well, dementia. All of this comes under it. Obesity being another one. So all of these came down to 80% down to lifestyle factors. The top four in that were physical inactivity, so not exercising, not moving enough, unhealthy, poor nutrition, or not eating the right foods, smoking is up there as a big one, and being an unhealthy weight is another one. Yeah. Okay. So then, if you look at kind of how important nutrition and physical activity come into that, they're like a big part of what I would call, there's 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine, as what we call lifestyle medicine. There's 6 pillars. So it's nutrition, which is centered around a healthy whole food plant-based nutrition, exercise, so physical activity, abstaining from harmful substances, so like smoking, alcohol, and other drugs. Good quality sleep is really important as well. Stress management, so our lives are really stressful, so managing that plays a huge role in how in what diseases can develop, and positive social connections as well. So humans are a social animal. If you're kind of lonely or isolated, you're more at risk of developing certain diseases as well.
I didn't know that, did you?
Yeah.
I think I'd heard that before, because I think it might have been as part of the China study or something like that.
There's quite a few studies that have shown
just about how important it is, and I think especially after COVID with us all being more isolated.
Yeah. If you look at like the longest lived populations, like the blue zones you may have heard of as well, so they've got a lot of these things in common, and the social aspect is huge. Being around loved ones and things like that, having a good relationship with your partner, or having children, or not even children, having pets as well. Like all of these social connections, you feel good when you're around that, and and you reciprocate that with other people as well. So it's really important. And if you kind of, some people say they're happy being alone, but if you're completely isolated, alone all the time, and you don't really have loved ones around you, that can affect like how you look after yourself, how others look after you, things like that. We need people. We depend on people for a lot of things as well. But going back to the nutrition and exercise, there's that phrase, isn't it? You are what you eat. in a way, we are, right? Whatever we put in, a lot of that's going to have an effect on the body. And, you know, if you're putting in a lot of, you know, like essentially junk food, things that don't have good nutritional value, loads of calories, things like that, if you don't monitor your not necessarily your body weight, but if you don't stay in a healthy weight range, because there is a range of healthy weights, there's no one size fits all that in that sense. But if you're not maintaining that, then you're going to run into issues. And food has such a powerful effect on things like your diabetes risk, because, you know, if you're eating lots of high calorie sugary foods, your risk of diabetes increases. You know, you can use that food as well to impact people that are already living with diabetes. You wouldn't ask them to eat loads of sugar. Like you eat like healthy whole plant foods like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, plant sources of protein and things. You know, your cholesterol is affected by how much saturated fat you might be eating as well. And, you know, how much fiber you eat as well. Fiber is a big part of nutrition, and it affects like your gut microbiome. It doesn't just help you have regular, you know, poos. It's also feeling that a big part of your body is your gut microbiome. There's more bacterial cells in your gut and on your skin and living on you than there are human cells. So they play such a huge role in like how they modulate your immune system and your overall health as well. And we're still learning more and more about the gut microbiome. It's becoming like a buzzword now as well. But fiber is like this huge thing now, isn't it? I mean, you might have heard of fiber maxing, where people try and eat as much fiber as possible, which I don't know how I feel about that. We all need to be eating more fiber as well. But that's a huge part of it with nutrition. And then exercise. I mean, come on, like, you know, it's linked to just so many health benefits as well. Again, it does help you maintain a healthy weight, but it's needed for like muscle health, bone health. People who exercise more are more likely less likely to have mental health issues as well, like depression and things. What else? Again, when you exercise, you're working out your heart, your lung, your cardiovascular systems. You're more likely to be aerobically fit. We know like having a higher VO2 max is associated with living a longer, healthier life as well. I'm not necessarily getting to like athlete levels, but if you're able to like run for a bit longer and able to breathe well, then you're more likely to live a healthier life, we see as well. So all of these things are important, and actually when you have both good nutrition and exercise, it's almost like the effect compounds, and you get the benefits of both just like 10x almost, like and you just feel better, and we see it all in the research that, and it's the same type of research studies that are being done. These are all cohort studies and population studies, where the people who exercise more tend to live longer, healthier lives. The people who eat healthier foods live longer, healthier lives as well.
Amazing. So quick fire round now. What are maybe 5 healthy foods that everyone should add to their diet?
5 healthy foods.
Yeah.
So beans and legumes, I count them as one. Fruits, vegetables.
Yeah.
Nuts and seeds, count them as one.
Yeah.
Whole grains.
Okay,
That's
nice.
it. Those are your 5.
And what about vitamins?
So like supplements?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, so I think if you're eating a whole food vegan diet, then you do run the risk of B12 deficiency. We know that, right?
Yeah.
And B12 deficiency can happen in anyone. It's not just vegans and vegetarians.
Yeah. It's quite common, isn't it, in the UK?
It's quite common even amongst non-vegans. But B12 essentially is found in animal foods. You know, there's no denying that. And animals themselves, it's their gut bacteria that make the vitamin B12, and then that goes into their body and stays in their tissues, all their secretions, and then when you consume that B12. Obviously, vegans can't get it from that, so we have to look at other sources. So unless you're eating high amounts of fortified foods or nutritional yeast, then it's good to supplement a B12 supplement. So I recommend all vegans supplement with B12.
Okay.
If you're living in the UK and Canada and countries where there's not much sun, then vitamin D supplement is also good.
Yeah.
Just make sure you read the label and you get a vitamin D that's vegan friendly.
Yes.
And the last one, I personally supplement this, is omega-3. Okay. So omega-3 comes from fish or marine life, but fish get it from algae. Yeah. So you can cut out the middle fish and just get it straight from the algae. And we know omega-3 is really useful for like brain health, cognition, heart health, and it's got a whole other host of positive health benefits to the body. So yeah, I supplement omega-3 as well.
Nice. Those are the 3 vitamins I take, so I'm glad to hear I'm doing it right.
I'll take them all.
Yeah,
Everything.
Erin has like a whole pile of vitamins.
Yeah, I mean, a multivitamin is good as well if you feel like you're going to fall short on other things like iodine sometimes, or selenium. But as long as you're looking at fortified foods and you think you're getting enough from that, you're probably fine as well.
Nice.
And what are some foods that you think people should be avoiding?
Yeah, I don't like demonizing foods, but if you're looking from a vegan lens, then animal products, obviously.
Yeah.
Because why would you want to kill and eat animals?
Yeah.
But if you're looking at it from a pure health perspective, then I would say processed red meats is up there, and sugar sweetened beverages. So like Coca-Cola, fizzy drinks that are have actual sugar in them.
Okay.
Those two are basically show the highest sort of risk profile when you look at health outcome data in all the foods. So yeah, I would say to avoid those two. But yeah, if you want like to eat a vegan donut, go for it.
Yeah. Okay.
Just don't make it your everyday diet.
Yeah. So I guess that leads on to we've been hearing a lot in the news lately about ultra processed foods, and it's become quite a buzzword, especially as used to kind of disparage vegan ultra processed foods.
Yeah.
You don't really hear it relating that much to non-vegan ones. What are your thoughts on that? Is that something we should be worried about? Is that worse than eating like red meat, for example?
I mean, this could be a whole podcast episode in itself on ultra processed foods. So yeah, the term is definitely thrown around a lot. But we should really clarify what the term ultra processed food means, because it's a pretty broad term. It's heterogeneous. There's lots of foods that come under that ultra processed bracket. It's really important to note that just because a food is ultra processed, that tells you nothing about how healthy that food is, right? So people need to get that in their heads first. I think people, when they hear ultra processed food, they just think, oh my God, it's definitely unhealthy, because of all these books that have come out recently about ultra processed foods. You've had documentaries on Channel 4 and BBC about ultra processed foods. And it's all just feeding into that narrative that all ultra processed foods are negative and bad for you, which is just simply not true. It's not founded in any science. It's completely illogical, completely irrational to think that. And I think it feeds into this neophobia that people have, like the fear of something new. People are afraid of man-made things. And also feeds into this concept of the naturalistic fallacy, where people think if something's natural, it's good for you or it's healthy, whereas if something is man-made or quote unquote unnatural, it's automatically bad for you. Again, it's a fallacy, because that's just not how life works. Yeah,
that's such a good point, because there's poison berries in nature, like they're natural.
Just gonna say the death cap mushroom, like it's bad for you. It's natural, but it's bad for you. Whereas what's good? I mean, fortified plant-based milks and things, like they're good for you. Multivitamins sometimes can be good for you. Medicine, like antibiotics, completely man-made, but they can save your life. You see what I mean? So applying that logic to food just doesn't make any sense. You have to look at what happens when we eat these foods and the outcome data, and not only that, but the different types of food that come under the bracket as well. And at the moment, nutrition scientists can't even agree on what an ultra-processed food is, or there's no set defined term. People sometimes use the NOVA classification. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, where there's sort of 4 categories. So it goes from NOVA 1 is like completely unprocessed food, like a single ingredient, like an apple. That'd be like your NOVA 1. And as you move up, it gets more processed. NOVA 2 is like your processed, they're like minimally processed culinary ingredients, so like oils and things. They come under 2. Number 3 would be like a combination of 1 and 2. Number 4 is like your ultra processed food. They're made in a factory. You can't really make it at home. They come in a plastic wrapping. But again, it says nothing about how healthy they are. And actually, there's lots of foods that will come under a NOVA 4, like a tin of baked beans, which can be part of a perfectly healthy diet, as well as plant-based meat alternatives and plant-based milk or dairy alternatives as well. They come under NOVA 4. And it's these foods that you see in the media are constantly blasted, and people say, oh, vegan diets or veganism is full of ultra-processed foods, yada, yada, yada. But it tells you nothing about how healthy these foods are. And actually, when they've done studies that look at ultra-processed foods, and you're looking to see, okay, what's causing the problems, the issue with a lot of ultra-processed foods and the things that people think of immediately are like your high fat, high sugar, high sodium foods, HFSS, I think they're known as. So these foods are designed to be really tasty. Their texture is just really nice in the mouth. They're hyper palatable. You want to eat more of them, and they're really poor in nutrition. They don't actually give you anything great apart from that satisfaction that you've eaten it, and you want to eat more of it. And that's what happens. People eat more of them. They end up getting in lots of calories that way, and that's what leads to a lot of the chronic diseases that we see. But when you actually break down by the different ultra-processed foods, the things that are having a negative effect are these sugar-sweetened beverages, red and processed meats. And actually, there was a meta-analysis. I can't remember who did it. I think it might have been Cordova. I can't remember who wrote this one, but it was a study that looked at kind of what foods are causing the negative effects, and it was sugar-sweetened beverages, ultra-processed meat-based products, and plant-based meat alternatives and plant-based dairy alternatives weren't causing any negative effect.
Oh wow!
So they can definitely be part of a healthy diet. And actually, there was a review that was done 2 years ago by Dr. Matthew Nagra and a few of his colleagues that looked at plant-based meat alternatives and the outcomes on kind of cardiovascular risk factors, and actually found that on the whole, plant-based meat alternatives had favorable macronutrient profile compared to meat. So they had like equal amounts of protein usually.
Mm-hmm.
They had more fiber. They had less saturated fats, so it's all looking positive there for plant-based meat alternatives. And when you look at the outcome, they actually led to a lowering of they were associated with a lower LDL cholesterol, which, as I said before, is what's associated with kind of development of heart disease.
Yeah.
So we're seeing that signal there. And actually, there was a trial called the Swap Meat trial where they looked at Beyond Burgers, which if you're asking about a Beyond Burger, they're going to be like, oh my God, it's definitely so ultra-processed, so bad for
Yeah.
you. It will be in the Nova 4. But they compared the Beyond Burger to a organic, I think it might have been grass-fed red meat burger. And it did like a trial where people ate the Beyond Burger, had their blood test done, had a washout period, ate the beef burger, then measured their blood test as well. And actually, the LDL cholesterol was lower in people that ate the Beyond when they ate the Beyond Meat burger, and the levels of TMAO as well, which may or may not be negative for heart disease as well. So we're seeing good short-term like improvements in these cardiometabolic risk factors from eating plant-based meat alternatives. I think we need more research on it.
Yeah.
But the stuff we have so far certainly looks positive, definitely doesn't look negative.
Yeah.
But because people have this obsession with lumping all ultra-processed foods under one bracket, it's just easy, isn't it? We're very good at categorizing things and putting blanket yes or no to things. We think very black and white,
Yeah.
whereas the world of nutrition is very grey, and it's always about comparing foods to something else. So compared to what? So is a Beyond Burger healthier for you than eating black beans, like a tin of no, probably eating some beans is probably going to be healthier than the Beyond Burger. But is the Beyond Burger going to be healthier than the food it's replacing, the processed red meat burger? It looks like it, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's better for the environment. And you know, at the moment we're trying to move people towards plant-based diet for not only the animal ethical reasons that you know we care about a lot, but the world needs to care about climate change and it needs to care about using less resources. And these plant-based meat alternatives, I thought this was going to be the future when I went vegan. I was like, this is amazing. This is going to change the world, because these foods provide the fix where we know that eating a meat-heavy diet is destroying the planet. It's using the most land, using the most water, using the most resources. It's causing the most deforestation, leading to the most water pollution and eutrophication, the greenhouse gas emissions as well. Plant-based meat alternatives do a fraction of that compared to meat, whilst providing good amount of protein, more fiber, better for you.
And almost a similar, same taste.
And similar taste, like it's some of these Beyond Burgers really fool people when they do blind taste tests and stuff. Some of these things have really fooled people. So I thought this was going to be the future, and unfortunately, because of this obsession with UPFs, the media has basically ruined what I thought would be like a trajectory towards people moving towards these foods. And actually we see it right now in supermarkets, right? People are choosing less of these foods. I don't know if you've seen this, but people are now opting for like it coming out. Foods that we used to find, like plant-based meat alternatives, are getting less and less. And we're seeing people come out with falafel bites and all this stuff. It's like, oh, great, we got like, we used to get really good Christmas sandwiches with like plant-based turkey. And now it's like, oh, falafel and carrot. What are you talking
we
about?
can make that ourselves.
And it's always the most dry ass falafel. Dry ass falafel that you could ever imagine. And we should just be eating, these alternatives because they're fine.
Definitely.
And I think when people are choosing kind of whether they should eat ultra processed foods or not, I think look, center your diet around whole plant foods. And then I always categorize these UPFs into two things. You've got your group, which is complete indulgence foods, like plant-based cheeses, your donuts, your cakes and all that. You can have them once in a while, just like you would with any other ultra-processed food. But then your next other category is your meat alternatives and the dairy alternatives. And I think they can be perfectly part of a well-balanced whole food plant-based diet as well. For sure.
I think the irony as well is a lot of people that are probably thinking, vegan ultra-processed foods are bad, aren't realising that most of what their diet comprises of, as like a meat diet, is ultra-processed foods as well.
Well, yeah, like sausages. Sausages are one of the most ultra-processed food you can get, right?
Like chocolate bars, just everything.
Yeah, but sausages are made of like 20 different animals, like put into one thing, and processed red meat we know increases your risk of colorectal cancer. That ham, bacon, pepperoni, sausages is associated with colorectal cancer, and yet people will eat that but say no to the vegan sausage roll because it's ultra processed. But you look at the ingredients list, and that's what scares people. People are scared of reading ingredients lists and seeing multiple things there, when actually meat is listed as a single ingredient, but it's also full of all sorts of different chemicals that make up meat. It's just that you don't list them all out because there's no point. Like you're not required to do that, so they can just write, 100% beef mince, and that's it. But actually, what's the composition of all of that? There's loads of things. Like your very cells contain all these different chemicals that make up that product. Whereas with foods, you have to list it out because you manufactured it. And like I said, it's just this whole neophobia. People are just scared of what's new.
I think not even just for doctors, but it would be good for more nutrition training in schools, like just so that we actually learn this stuff when we're
everywhere. But I think there needs to be a shift where the government actually recognises that this is, if you look at the evidence, these foods are going to be beneficial for health because of the foods they're replacing. They're going to be better for the environment, and the government has climate sort of what's the word I'm thinking of? Yeah, the government, we've got climate targets that we need to meet to keep this planet habitable for the future. We're not going to meet it if we carry on just demonizing all ultra-processed foods, because ultra-processed foods fill that gap that is in the market for healthier foods that are better for the environment and better for the animals.
Go eat a veggie burger, guys.
So before we go, we ask all of our guests one question. You have one meal to turn a non-vegan vegan. What are you feeding them?
Does it have to be something I made myself or the restaurant?
Make yourself.
Can I tell you the restaurant as well?
Go on.
The restaurant would be tofu vegan.
Oh yeah,
I would take them tofu vegan, and I'll get all the best things on there. Those wontons are, you haven't been tofu vegan, that's the best thing. But if I have to make it myself, so I make this really nice, if I do say so myself, roasted red pepper, sort of silken tofu cheesy pasta sauce with pasta and spinach and chestnut mushrooms and butter beans with like this chili olive oil, and then I sprinkle kind of smoked tofu on top.
That sounds great.
Banging. It's great.
You need to have us around for dinner.
That one is really good.
That sounds great.
I found it by I kind of saw different recipes, and I thought if I put all these together, it just worked, and it was so good.
That sounds great.
So good.
Nice. And what about dessert?
Oh, I don't really make a dessert. I normally just get dessert.
Okay.
What would you get?
Okay, so there was this. I went to Iceland, and there was a cafe there called Mama's Cafe.
Yeah, been there.
You've
Love
been there?
it. Yeah.
Did you have their cheesecake?
The one that's called Orgasm.
Screaming Orgasm.
Screaming Orgasm. Yes. Yeah.
Screaming Orgasm. That's the name of the cheesecake.
It was great.
And it is. It's so good. I actually went back and had second. Like I went on another day before I left Iceland. I went back to have it, and I asked the people there. I was like, what the hell is this cheesecake? Yeah, it's amazing. What the hell? I've never had a cheesecake this good. Even when I wasn't vegan, I've never had a cheesecake this good. And they're like, we have no idea how they do it, how she does it. But I was like, are you guys vegan? They're like, no, we're not, but we love the cheesecake.
Yeah, it's
but
amazing.
The person who makes it obviously is vegan. And it's just, it's the best cheesecake ever.
Okay, that's
we have to go all the way to Iceland for it.
Worth it. Amazing. So thank you so much for joining us. Where can people follow you?
Yeah, so I'm active mostly on Instagram under the handle Dr Iron Junkie.
Okay.
And I don't do other social media really. I've got a Facebook profile, but I don't really use it for much, and I stay away from TikTok.
Okay.
So if you go on social media, it would be Dr Iron Junkie on Instagram.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Cool.
Aaron will link you.
I'll put the links in for you.
Cool.
Nice. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's amazing. As
always, thank you for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed the episode. Please share it with your friends to help us inspire kindness for animals. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at animalaid_UK, on Facebook and YouTube at Animalaid, and on Blue Sky at animalaid.org.uk. See you next time.